r/AskReddit. Police officers of Reddit, what do you do when a close friend breaks the law? Do you turn a blind eye or report them? And have you ever had a crazy situation arise from either choice? My best friend from high school is now a cop. The other day, I was super baked while texting him, and he asked me what's going on. To which I responded stoned out of my mind, wanna smoke? Then I remembered who it was to. He just answered with that's the only thing I miss about my life before the force. So I guess he's cool about it, but I probably shouldn't text that to a cop. Pulled over to cars that busted an illegal turn back to back. Second car was a friend that I went to the academy with from another jurisdiction. Let the first driver go with a warning, so I could shoot the shit with him for a little bit. Not going to write both, not going to write one. Previously, I went with friends out of town to an event. We were staying with one of their friends who lived in that town. Evening rolls around, and some of them started to edge towards a back room with a low table and comfy couches, but were eyeballing me warily. I told them that I wasn't on duty, and I was out of my jurisdiction. Plus I was wiped, and was going to sleep in another room. They had the courtesy not to blaze up in front of me knowing my job, even though it was their house. So I just removed myself from the equation. If I had the ability to use discretion like with a traffic ticket or minor criminal offense like DUI where there isn't really a victim, I'd give them a break. If it was a more serious crime I'd try to help them by consoling them, but not interfering with the legal process. I give breaks out all the time for traffic offenses and minor criminal offenses. As long as the person isn't an asshole, it shouldn't matter if it's a friend, because I'm giving them the same break I'd give anyone else. This is why most cops won't ticket another cop. People get all but that because cops give each other a break, but we give everyone a break. Not everyone needs to be arrested/cited. Just to clarify, I think I'm being reasonable. If it was a traffic offense or minor criminal offense I'd use my discretion and do what I can, no matter who it is, friend, cop, anyone, as long as they're not an asshole and work with me. For bigger offenses like felonies or something where there is a clear-cut victim, I'm gonna do my job regardless of who it is. I have friends that are law enforcement. Some know I smoke pot every now and then, but they won't come search my house. I also respect them enough to not ever smoke or even carry it on me when they're around. Those same officers won't arrest someone for the same amount of pot I have on me, so it's not just a friend thing, it's more of a pointless thing to do. My uncle is a cop, albeit in another state. He's the most baddest person I've ever met. Knows how to party with fireworks, has the hero stories of stupidity, and got close to fired for calling in his own boss. He operates off the rule of the law and a moral compass, which gives me probably a jilted view when it comes to cops. If you're not messing with other people's safety and lives, and you're a nice respectful person, you get treated that way. I've known friends who had all their pot stash out, beautiful pipes, bags, prettiest nugs you've ever seen, and the cops came to bust their roommate for heroin. They came in, saw the pot stuff, told them to quickly put it away before searching the rest of the house. If you're nice and not trying to harm other people, then generally that's how other people, cops, respond to you. If you're entangled with people who are capable and going to commit rape or murder, you're already more involved than you might think. If it comes to that, you have to question, is your job more important, or the safety of the people you claim to protect? This is actually a question that is asked in, I feel pretty comfortable in saying, a majority of oral board exams. The oral board is generally part of the hiring process, usually following the written test and physical fitness test, and preceding the psychological evaluation, background investigation, physical examination, and final interview with a chief/commissioner/sheriff. My answer has always gone something like this. I think, among my friends and relatives, there are very few who would commit crimes of moral turpitude. Those who I would expect to do that I have long ago severed relations with, and I wouldn't have any issue with carrying out my duties with them. In the event that I, for example, stopped a vehicle and found that my own father was driving the vehicle, drunk, this is a scenario I've been presented with a few times. I would use the discretion afforded me and find him a ride home, rather than arresting him. I would, however, tow his vehicle, Were the offense much more serious, I would remove myself from the case and investigation, in order to prevent a conflict of interests and the possible compromising of the case. It would be unreasonable to expect me to be able to objectively investigate a serious crime committed by one of my friends or relatives, and it would ruin the integrity of the case in the eyes of judge or jury. My friends know not to screw around in my jurisdiction. I've got a career to think about, and a family to provide for. If I'm on duty, then speeding is about the only thing you would get away with. Anything else and it'd bring another officer in to do what needs to be done, and then it'd chew their ass out for putting me in that position. Lucky for me, most of my friends have calmed down, so it's not really a concern. If a friend confessed that they murdered someone, I'd launch the investigation myself. I had a close friend and co-worker who frequently skirted the line of what was legal/moral, and I'd give him a word of guidance if he was pushing it, but let it slide, because you're always going to know shit about your friends and nobody is perfect. One day I caught him committing a rather serious federal offense and turned him in, no questions asked. He's in a world of shit now. Not as bad as he should be. His prosecutor and judge were older gentlemen who didn't really understand what he had done. It was a cybercrime. It felt really shitty watching my friend go down the tubes because I turned him in, but it was absolutely the right thing to do, and many people are better off because of the decision I made. A buddy of mine is a cop, works narcotics, different jurisdiction than other guy. A mutual friend always sent him pics of weed, pounds at a time, that he also posts on his Facebook. He told dealer dude not to send it to him, and definition don't put it on his Facebook. Guy kept doing it, so my buddy unfriended him and quit talking to him. It's not that he was doing something illegal, it's just that he was being dumb and rude to our cop buddy. Was friends with a cop when I was in school. He let me and people he knew I was friends with get away with a fair amount of shit. Obviously, underage drinking, but also drug deals and drunk driving. I honestly was pretty surprised by his leniency, but other cops seemed to act similarly. His partner would follow him in the squad car when he drove my friend's car home when she was drunk driving, and didn't report him for not ticketing her or anything. And officers that knew I was friends with him have also let me off the hook drinking underage and smoking. He never actually witnessed the drug deals. I'm not sure if he would have done something if they occurred in his actual presence, but he didn't care that I dealt in general. Being former law enforcement on both the federal and LEO, I kept my integrity period. I informed my supervisor and chain of command that I would not be enforcing consensual crimes such as prostitution and individual drug use 20+ years ago, based on the state and federal constitution, and not fad politics. I swore to defend the constitution and local citizens, not bullshit. So when anyone was high, I completed the FST, and if found to be impaired, I booked them for being impaired, and not the federal crime, same as alcohol DUI. I once pulled over my former fiancée for speeding in my car, and gave her the ticket, and I paid the fine the next day, and she got the points. Oddly enough, it didn't cause too many issues, since I warned her ahead of time and knew she had a lead foot. I'm an MP, so things operate a little differently than regular police. Anyway, it depends on the offense. Speeding is whatever, I got better paperwork to focus on, assuming they weren't driving recklessly as well, i.e. swerving. Smoking a joint off post, don't do it around me. Do it on post and they get one warning before I take action. Larcenies, sex crimes, murder, etc. I will take action immediately. With minor crimes, misdemeanors, petty offenses, I'd probably do the same thing I do when an acquaintance or total stranger breaks the law, give them a verbal warning, and try to correct the behavior. With felonies, excluding persons crimes, I'd simply cease being their friend. There's no way I'd report them, generally, just like I would likely not report a non-persons crime felony, like Schedule 1 half drug use/possession, if I was off duty. To most law enforcement officers, the term always on duty applies. But this doesn't mean being life's little hall monitor, it simply means being willing, ready, and able to jump into a situation, if necessary, to save a life. I think most of my coworkers, at least in the departments I've worked for, would have the same mindset. If it involved a person's crime, robbery, domestic violence, sexual assault, etc., damn right I'd report it. I'd likely confront them and encourage them to turn themselves in first, but if someone was in danger because of their actions, I'd call for a local response on the spot. And no, I've never had a crazy situation arise from this scenario. The closest I've gotten was when I pulled over my partner's neighbor for a minor traffic infraction. He was sitting shotgun and laughed when he saw her license. Gave her a verbal warning because I was already planning on giving her a verbal warning. With most traffic infractions, I know if I'm writing a ticket before I even approach the car. I don't write attitude tickets. I'm not a cop, but 2 weeks ago was an eyewitness to a cop hitting a civilian, both in cars. The responding officer was a friend of the cop and couldn't do anything due to conflict of interest. The case was turned over to the neighboring county. They called me and I gave my statement over the phone. Speaking for the small stuff, I have a few friends that are cops. All of them just ask that we don't put them in a position where they have to compromise their professional ethics. If you need to smoke a J, don't do it in their face. Just go round the corner. Sure, they know you're smoking a J round there, but now they have professional deniability. If you don't respect them enough to not put them in that position, then you're not a good enough friend to them that they should go easy on you. If I thought they were wrong according to the ideals I keep, and if I think the law was more equipped than I to reprogram/indoctrinate the person so that they better reflected my ideals, I'm more likely to have the law deal with a compulsive thief than a pot smoker. I might report a preem. Am I the only one who has a problem with these responses? You're a cop. If it's your friend or family, they're breaking the goddamned law. You should treat them the same as you would treat anyone else. If you'd arrest me for it, I expect you to arrest them for it. Fuck that conflict of interest bullshit. You're a police officer. It's not your job to interpret the laws. It's your job to fucking enforce them. How do any of you think it's okay to give preferential treatment to specific people? Not a cop, but my former neighbors were a sheriff as well as his son, who was a deputy that lived a few houses down. We lived in the country. They let us ride four-wheelers on the street, even though it was technically illegal. One time they caught my dad and his friend shoot at a deer during season from inside his truck, out the window, at a deer in a field. Illegal to do from a vehicle. He let that slide with a warning and a lecture about not doing it again. He knew my dad smoked weed, didn't care. Basically, if it wasn't harming someone, he didn't mind. Thanks for watching UpGoat Reddit. Try like and subscribe button if it still works.